I'm one of those givers in life in that I'm a coach, and as I'm sure most of you here appreciate, as a coach, it's all about planning. It's all about looking at you guys who are athletes, who are triathletes, who are trying to be the best that you can be. And as a coach, it's me looking at you and thinking, well, how can I make you better? How can I make you faster? How can I make you go faster for longer? So from that point of view, you guys out there are all takers. So as far as I'm concerned, if you want to achieve in your given sport, you have to be one of the most selfish people going, Mr. Baddeley. And when you consider that, well, we've just heard from John, Mark and Andy about what they do, I have to be honest and say to you that having worked with these guys in a capacity as a coach over 15 years or so, I can tell you that they've very much underplayed what they do. Because for me as a coach, they keep my athlete in one piece. And that's important. Because unless they're in one piece, then they can't then go forwards and do what they're trying to do. Now let's try and get an idea of what they're trying to do and also what you're trying to do. So let's talk about the Olympics. It happens once every 4 years. So you have an opportunity, first of all, of qualifying for the Olympics. So you've got to get the Olympic qualifying time. Once you've got the Olympic qualifying time, you've got to qualify. So you've got to be the best 2 or 3 in your country. Not satisfied with that, you then have to go on from there, and then you have to be the fittest that you can be at a window of opportunity, which is, well, it's like a pinhead, isn't it? So let's think about it. 52 weeks in a year, add that the days, put in the hours, and then you're asking an athlete to be at the peak of their performance at a window of opportunity for someone like Andy Baddeley, which is, 3.5 minutes for a 1500. So that's how precise you have to be in the planning, in the recovery, right down to the minutiae. And it's interesting listening to Andy talk and talk you through some of his preparations, because for me as a coach, it's a little bit of an insight into my athlete as regards how he prepares, because I prepare him to go and do it, he prepares himself to go and do it, and it's quite an insight to see how he gets himself ready. So an example of that would be, so he was the last British man to win the Oslo Dream Mile. He ran it in 3 minutes 49 seconds, which is not hanging around for someone like myself who's still trying to break a 7-minute mile. It's quite amazing. And I can always remember, and I hope Andy doesn't mind me sharing this with you, that we planned for him to win that race. We planned, because the year before he ran 3:51 for the mile, and I said to him, you're world class when you break 3:50. And I remember that because it was reported in a national newspaper. My coach said that I'm only world class if I break 3:50. Now, to talk about that is that I'm in the stands before the race, and I'm waiting for my athlete to come out. And I get a message. Andy Baddeley, can I talk to you? Really? I'm sure you're going to be on the start line in about half an hour. And so I walk round to the warm-up area, and he's sat there, and he's just seen one of his main competitors knock out a very quick time in the 1500, and he's worried about his place in getting to the Olympics. And so I walked in, I said, tapped him on the shoulder, I said, Bads, what's the problem? You've got a race, mate, what are you doing? And he said, Tom Lancashire just ran very well. What? You are going to go out and run the mile. What's your problem? He said, can I do it? I said, think about these things. 1, how has your training been to this point? It's been the best I've ever done. I said, do you really need me to be here? Now go out there and win this race. And that's about as close as our conversation got. Now, if you ever get the chance to watch the Oslo Dream Mile, please do, because it's quite special, because it takes me back to my old school days of growing up watching the likes of Steve Ovett, Sebastian Coe, Steve Cram winning that race. Well, that man over there won it. It's pretty special, isn't it? And that's the sort of thing as a coach that you take away from the preparation that you do. So you're all thinking, well, okay, Andy Hobdell, you're a coach, you had guys at 3 Olympics, as Mark Draper reminded me of earlier, and what can you offer us today to take away for our triathlon training? Well, we kind of spoke about it a bit earlier, and we started to talk about training, didn't we? And I'd say this is, put your hands up in the air. Before your triathlon, you do repetition work, whether it's 200s, 400s, 800s a mile. Yeah, we all think about, we need to run faster, don't we? And then, how many people here do a long run? Something over the 10k distance, which they might do? Oh, this is good. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. How many people do a fartlek? Yeah, we like fartleks, don't we? How many people here do what I think is the most important part of a week in training? How many people do threshold running? Ooh, well done over there, I like that. Because I'm old school, so I'm old school in the fact that I was brought on the fact that you trained hard all the time and you did more miles, and if you could do more miles, you did more miles. If you could train harder, you trained harder. Now, is that intelligent training? Well, no, it's not, is it? But that's what I was brought up on, and listening to John and Mark and Andy talk here. Now, these guys will tell you it's very much about knowing how much is right. It's not about doing too much, because you're going to overtrain. Now, for me, when I first started coaching, which is, Mr. Draper, how old are you now?
32.
And how old were you when I started coaching you?
14.
14. So that's when I started coaching. He's my first athlete. So it's a bit of a coincidence. I don't know how Katie managed it, but she's done a very good job. So when I first started coaching Mark, sadly, he suffered all of my bad traits. You got it. We trained very hard. Sorry, Mark. After one collapsed lung, we kind of got through that.
We worked it out.
Yeah. And then what happens is you start to work it out. And it's because you want to do what's best for your athletes. You want them to achieve. And what I learned at a very early stage with Mark, and we started to introduce it, was that you needed the right composition of training within your week. So the rep work you're talking about, fantastic. 10k pace, with a bit of rest in between, that's fantastic. Long run, excellent. Over distance work, also very good. But why don't you just pull the gel together, put the glue in there, which is threshold running. Now, if I was to say to somebody here, what's comfortably hard by way of running, I would bet you any money that you would all go out and you'd run too hard. So if I said to, sorry, I forgot your name. Martha. If I said to you, go out and run 2 miles comfortably hard, do you think you know what comfortably hard is? It's difficult, isn't it? It is very difficult. And I think Badders, do you want to tell them a quick story? When I first started coaching him, it's quite entertaining, I don't mind you saying, is that I said to him, could you go out and do a 2 mile run comfortably hard in Bushy Park? How did that go?
Not fun.
And why did...
It was a 6 mile run. I only made it to 2 miles, but way too hard. I had to stop and walk. I was quite good then as well. I just didn't know what I was doing.
And that's kind of the learning curve, which, if you can take away anything from tonight from me, is going to be this bit of information. All right? So, threshold running, it's one of those things that, yeah, you read in books and they say comfortably hard. So we all know, don't we? If we go out and run hard, slowly but surely, our legs get tired and we can't run any faster. That's because we've gone too hard. We've accumulated that lactate in our legs, in our systems, that's just not allowed us to run hard. And I think, Katie, you said to me, Andy, when you come along tonight, can you perhaps maybe help people to run on tired legs? Well, this is kind of what that is. All right, so if you can imagine a pace, just to use terminology, where your blood lactate stays steady and doesn't go any higher, that's kind of like the point. Now, the guys earlier spoke about this, and this is what you can get from them, is that you can go and get physiologically tested. And what that means is they stick you on a treadmill, and besides sticking needles in you at a regular basis to get your bloods, they'll take you through a range where you're accumulating lactate until you get to a certain point where the curve just suddenly jumps. And that point just before there, that's your threshold, that's what we want. It's what I call the golden juice of running. Because if you can... And if you can get your athlete to that point, it works very well. Now, certainly by testing you can do that, but I don't know if all of us can necessarily afford to go and do the testing. So how would you do it? An easy way is park runs. You go along and you do your 5k, don't you, a park run, you leg it round, you have a great day, start your weekend off well, and you get a PB. Now, if you look at your PB for that 5K, and you break it down into a K time, and if you add about 30 seconds to that, try running that. It's a very easy exercise. Is if you take your 5K PB, if you divide it and take that K time and add 30 seconds to it, go out, for me, the next time you do a run, whether it be from 2 miles, 4 miles, 6 miles, go out and try that. Take your heart rate monitor with you. I don't want to get too gadget phobic about this, but take your heart rate monitor, have a look at your heart rate. See if it remains steady. All right? Try that. Because that's kind of like the starting point. Now, has anyone tried that here already? No? Yes. Am I about right? Is that roughly the sort of zone you're looking at? So once you've found that zone, it's learning how that feels. Now, Mark, I'm just going to bring you down here. Come down. No, come on. Okay. So, Mark is the opposite of Badders. Badders runs 3:49 for the mile. Mark runs 3:56. Badders will get himself physiologically tested. He will wear his watch, he will wear his Garmin, he will have his heart rate, and I'll be cycling next to him and he said, I'm 1 beat too fast, I've got to slow down. How do you do it?
Just running, man.
And that's the different side of it. And how do you know what is right?
I would go to feel usually.
Okay.
And it's experience, isn't it? You mess it up, you get it wrong, you do it better than the week after, then you mess it up again and you get better and better. So.
Thank you.
Right, I'm off.
So does that give you a good kind of comparison that you can go down to the minutiae with the physiological stuff and the heart rates and be taking lactates and all those sorts of things? Or you can start working on, a bit old school, but working on how that feels. If you can hold a conversation, say, of 4 or 5 words, but not a sentence, that's probably about right. Is that how it feels for you? Jogging with your friend or running with your friend? Okay, we're not talking anymore. Is that how it feels? So once you've found out that area, how can you start to use that in your training? Well, many ways. If you set yourself a threshold session and you find you can't get to that level, what's that telling you? Well, it's telling you you're tired. All right, so that's an early wake-up call that you don't need to push tonight. And you just bag it. You just say, do you know what? I can't get up to my heart rate zone. I can't get to the pace, and it's just hard. If your heart rate's not going up and your body's saying no, bag it. Rest. Just call it a social run. Just jog along with the dogs. Whatever. But just bag it. Don't push. Because that's where also the threshold run comes in. It tells you when your body is tired. Very useful, isn't it? Because none of us here want to overtrain. None of us want to do too much, because if we break, we're useless. We can't race. And what do we want to do? We want to train to race, to be better. That's how it works, isn't it? How else can you use that threshold run? Well, who here does hill training? Oh, who just does hill sprints? Who does threshold hill sprints, threshold hill sprints? Oh. So, an easy thing to do to get an extra bit more of aerobic work in there, well, instead of just doing a jog warm-up, why not do a mile? Why not do 2 miles at threshold pace? And then have 2 or 3 minutes rest, then bang up and down a hill, and then here's the fun part. Try and do your 2 miles after. Now, Kate, you talked to me about tired legs. Well, that's a perfect example of you've got tired legs, and you're working at the right zone. I think they're coming to get me. It wasn't me. But that's a perfect example of teaching you, your body, to run whilst tired. You can add it into your long run. So on your long run, you start off social with your friends. Okay, having a nice day. What did you do last night? And then as the run progresses, you start to perhaps maybe not talk as much. And then in the last 15, 20 minutes, you can run at threshold. Extra bit of aerobic work coming into your training. You're not having to kill yourself, you're just incorporating that nicely within your training. So how does that help you moving on to more specific stuff with the triathlon? Well, I coach a few triathletes. Some days they like me, some days they don't. And the way most of my guys look at things is the bike and the run are one thing. They are one component. Is that how people here look at it? Is that how you kind of train for it? Because An example, and it's one of those sessions my guys do, is they'll go out and bang out a hard bike session on a Saturday morning early, so they don't want to encroach into family time. They finish at the park run. They then go and run a park run hard, trying to get their PBs. But then here's the special part. Once you've had 2 or 3 minutes, you handed in your barcode, try and do that park run 5k again, but 3 minutes slower. It's quite special, isn't it? And that's a good way of, by 10:30 on a Saturday, you're done. And you've got yourself a very good training session in. And what it's taught you is that you've gone hard on the bike, you come off the bike and you've gone hard into park run, because nobody, I don't care what anyone says, who jogs at park run? I can tell you, every time I turn up, I'm like this. And my son's up here. Okay, because we want to make you as aerobically strong as we can make you. Because if you're aerobically strong, very fit, you can run fast and you can run long. And isn't that what we all want to do? Okay, how am I doing for time? I told you I can talk too long. Okay, I'm fine. Anyway, look, thank you very much. You've been a gracious audience. Thank you very much.